This is Andi Purewal for Boxing News. I'm joined by a fellow Andy in Andy Lee here in Saudi Arabia. Andy, good to see you. How are you doing?
Good. We should get Andy Clarke and Andy Scott,
Yep.
Andy Lee and Andy Purewal together.
Have you seen the Spider-Man meme where everyone's looking at each other? That's what we need to recreate, Andy. But yeah, here we are. An unbelievable, undisputed light heavyweight title bout takes place on Saturday night. Beterbiev-Bivol. Do you have a favourite, Andy? Do you have a clear favourite, I should say?
No clear favourite. But leaning towards Beterbiev just slightly now, even though I've changed my mind a few times. But it's an intriguing fight, interesting fight, and you know when we see these top class amateurs fight each other, this is going to be like that, but over 12 rounds. And both guys are well educated in the sport. They operate at such a high level of skill. And we're in for a treat, yeah. I can't see it not delivering on that aspect, and we'll see. We'll see what happens. No one can predict, as they both said themselves. Only God knows who's going to win. But we're only one day away now, so it's good.
If you had a horse in this race, Andy, and you was trying to, work out a way for that horse to defeat the other one, it's a very bad
no, I know what you mean.
But yeah, how would you
try and work?
Training, one of the fighters. How would you work him to beat the other style?
I'd much more to be preparing to fight Bivol than I would be to be preparing to fight Beterbiev, because you can be perfect, like Wilder says, you can be perfect for 90% of the fight, and then 1% of the fight you make a mistake and it's over. Now, he has knocked people out one punch before, Beterbiev, but he's not really a one punch knockout guy, but he does get you. But Bivol will be prepared for that. They know exactly how to fight that style, coming from the same background. But it's easiest in theory, and you can practice as much as you like, but on the fight night it's always different. And you've seen all the videos about how hard this guy punches. All the sparring partners have been given testimony about how hard he punches, and big gloves and headgears. So I don't know, it's like he stood up against Canelo Alvarez, Bivol, and took all those big punches on the arms and shoulders. But I think he's in with a different puncher now, and Beterbiev, and someone who can counter back as well. Canelo doesn't really counter off your punches a lot. He does, and he can. But yeah, great fight, and we'll see.
Do you think people don't look into or don't give Artur Beterbiev credit for his boxing skill set away from his power?
No, to get into the position to land the power, it takes a lot of skill and a lot of ability. He's got a very good jab, good slip right hand, and good timing. Like Bivol's got the edge in speed, probably hand speed, but the timing of Beterbiev will match that. He'll start to time the jab. He'll start to time, when he attacks. Feints are going to be hugely important in this fight for both of them. If you can feint and get your opponent to react, throw a punch out of reaction, then they're very vulnerable. Then you can set up. I think feints are very important in this fight.
You obviously have your own hand in the heavyweight division at this moment in time. There's a great rematch on this undercard between Fraser-Clarke and Fabio Wardley. Who comes out on top in this rematch?
It's another evenly matched fight, and they put up a good show in the first time. It was a good fight. It swung back and forth. I was really impressed with Clarke. He showed that was a good amateur, that he has good basics, and that to me was very evident in the fight. That you have one guy who's very good with natural ability in Wardley, but you had a guy who's been very well trained over the years in Clarke, and that was the conflict in the when one would have success that build on their strengths and use their strengths, and when the other one would have success, it was because of the ability and the punch power of Wardley. I think when Wardley had Clarke hurt the first fight, he showed his inexperience in that he went all out and let his hands go and was very wild and almost punched himself out because it showed him towards the end of the fight he was very tired. I think maybe if he gets him hurt this time, he can be more composed, more patient, pick his punches. That could be the difference in the fight. But Clarke was very good with his jab, double jab, good uppercut on the inside, and had Wardley going towards the end as well. So it's a good close fight, isn't it? Like, and for Clarke, Wardley is very good. Just watching the fight, and I could be wrong here, and I don't want to insult anybody, but what I see with Wardley, because of his lack of amateur experience, he's very good when he's set and he's in position. And you know, like a lot of the Ben Davison fighters, they use their right hand to fence and to paw and to stab when they can, but it's always measuring and measuring and looking to set up their backhand. But so if he's set in that position, he's very dangerous. You got to make him move his feet and then attack him, because he's not set. He has to coordinate and reposition himself. So that's what Clarke should do. Try to make moves, even if it means taking a step back, not always going forward, and making come and then attack him. You can't attack Wardley when he's set, because as he did the first fight, he throws that right hand over the top, and Clarke is very vulnerable to that. For Wardley, I would say, box your fight. When you get your chance, be composed. Take your time. Don't rush your work, and you might get him out of there. So it's a very, very close fight.
On the heavyweight mix itself, and you mentioned Ben Davison a couple of weeks ago back at Wembley, we saw Daniel Dubois stop Anthony Joshua. What did you make of that? And reflect on it for me, please, Andy.
I wasn't surprised about the fight going the way it did, and it could have easily went the other way, because it was a shootout between two heavyweight punchers. And if they fight again, if they have a rematch, it could easily go the other way, because it's the difference between one punch landing and not landing. Dubois, he's turned his career around, and you know, a lot of credit has to go to him and to Don Charles for the job they've done together. That's 3 great wins: Miller, Hrgovic, and Joshua. Fantastic, you know. It's better than even Joseph has done with Wilder and Zhang.
He won't appreciate that.
You have to give credit where it's due, and they deserve a lot of credit. And I like how Daniel has become so resilient. He doesn't ever waver in his resolve, even though he can get caught, and he did with Hrgovic and Miller. They put huge pressure on him. He never once looked like he was going to break or take his foot off the gas. So I think, yeah, it was a good heavyweight fight, and it ended up in a knockout, and that's what you paid to see. And I think that's the way heavyweight boxing should be. And I don't think you can condemn a fighter or think that he's finished just because he got knocked out, because that's what we're paying to see. That's what you're meant to do. I'd happily watch the rematch if they do rematch.
From a technical standpoint, Andy, what did you see that Anthony Joshua did that was wrong? Obviously, a lot of people trying to analyse it now. A lot of people talking about AJ's hands being low, or would you say it was simply because of what happened in the first round? AJ's senses had kind of befuddled and couldn't get him back.
It doesn't matter what I say here. I'm not going to score any points by and I don't take pleasure in criticising people. It's a fight, and it's hard enough when you get beat. You don't need to be hearing people, telling you what you did wrong, or even as a coach telling you what you did wrong. But you can always learn from it. And as I said, it was a shootout, and you only have so much control once that bell rings. It's like rolling the dice, throwing them onto the crab table, or throwing a little ball into the roulette table. You don't know where it's going to land. Sometimes you don't know what's going to happen. And when 2 big men are punching like that, you never know what's going to happen.
I have to ask you one final thing on it, Orvin, and I'm sure you've seen the live commentary of Shane McGuigan in that 5th round prior to the stoppage, and he went against what Ben was saying. Do you think that made things look a little bit worse because you had a very well-respected coach from the UK giving a very different opinion as to how the fight could play out compared to what Ben's instructions were? Do you think that made it look worse?
Yeah, but if he landed an uppercut and got a knockout, then Ben looks like a genius. Lee Wiley and Ben, they look like geniuses, you know what I mean? But he didn't. And now Shane looks like a genius. But Shane is a very good coach, and he used to train Daniel, so he knows he's got an inside there. You know, he knows what's going to happen. I don't know. So, like, these things, you look good if it comes off, doesn't it? You know what I mean? If you freaking, you know.
Andy, I have to ask about your own heavyweight charge, Mr. Joseph Parker. Yeah. I saw he's back in the gym now. He's got George Lockhart over with him in Ireland. I think a lot of people were expecting to maybe see him at the end of the year on that Usyk-Fury 2 card. Nothing's currently seeming to materialise, but what can you tell me? Where do things sit with Joe?
The way Joe sits is that he's ready to fight any heavyweight in the world. He's well positioned, and he's proven in his last 2 performances that he's one of the best. Could be the best. Just needs the opportunity. Could be the best heavyweight in the world. Just needs the opportunity to prove it. He's reaching new levels all the time in the gym, and his understanding of boxing, it's come on, you know, and he's ready to fight anybody. He's ready to fight anybody, and we're ready and waiting for the call, and we're pushing for it behind the scenes, with like any of the big fights. And he's ready. Yeah.
I have to ask, there were some names which I put to him and which were kind of coming into the equation, which were Caballero, Bacoli and the Zhang rematch. Caballero, Bacoli being ordered by the IBF for a final eliminator now. But what do you make of any of those 3 names, and which fight out of those 3, let's say, would you prefer?
The fights I'd prefer for Joseph is in no order. Dubois, Joshua, Usyk. We're not going to fight Tyson. We're never going to do that. But those are the fights I want. Joe's beaten Wilder. He's beaten Zhang, and he's shown that those 3 or 4 that I mentioned are at the top now, and Joe's just below them, and the other ones are just below that. Like Bacoli is a handful. Let's not get this wrong, and could possibly beat everyone in the division. Let's not get it wrong. But he hasn't got those signature wins yet. Same with Caballero. He beat Makhmudov, was the big guy, and he beat Sanchez. They're good wins, but they're not signature wins. So they're not there yet. You know what I mean? And we will happily fight those guys if that's what's put in front of us. Joe's shown that he'll step in the ring with anybody. But as of yet, we haven't had a credible offer for any fight.
The Zhang rematch then?
Yeah, it could be. Could be Zhang. It could be Caballero. There was some talk of that, but listen, there's nothing in writing on the table yet. But Joe's in Dublin. He's training hard. He's in fantastic condition already, and he's ready for. He wants to fight. He's hungry to fight.
And obviously that rematch on December 21st. Lessons learnt from the first fight. How different of a Tyson Fury do we see against Alexander Usyk?
You will see a much better Tyson Fury, I believe, because fights are won and lost in the ring, but they're also won and lost in training camps. And when you're preparing for the biggest fight of your career, with against your best opponent in Usyk, but you've been cut in the previous camp and you're carrying a cut and you can't spar for the biggest fight of your life, how are you going to perform well or perform to your maximum? So I'd say you didn't see a shadow of the man, but you didn't see the full Tyson Fury in the first fight, and the first fight was close. Got through round 9, showed incredible heart and incredible bravery in round 9, and courage, and probably won round 12, and the other 2 rounds were close. So it was a close fight the first time round, but because of that round 9, that's the highlight that gets shown all the time, and people's impression of the fight and the remembering of the fight is round 9. But they don't remember all the other rounds where Tyson was boxing and going to the body and hurt Usyk a couple times. Usyk is a phenomenal boxer. He will be better in the rematch, but Tyson can be a lot better than he was in the first fight. So I think he can be heavier as well, sharper, more conditioned, more fitter, and all those things will make you believe that he's going to win the rematch.
In the first fight, Alexander kept saying, "I will follow you, I will be there, he'll be in his face," and that's how he approached the fight. Do we see a different kind of approach from Tyson? Do we see him look to push Alexander back a bit more?
Yeah, maybe even more, because when you're not fit enough through lack of sparring or conditioned, you have to take your breaks. You can't maintain or sustain attacks. So Tyson would do something really good, have some success, but then would have to break, and give the incentive to Usyk to come forward. So he knows what he has to do. Eliminate. Boxing is all about being like, the greatest fighters are consistent. They don't take breaks, mental and physical breaks. That's all I try to iron out with my fighters when I'm training them. Don't take breaks. Don't walk. Don't drop your hands. Don't look. Being on it for 3 minutes of the round. And that's what you have to do to win.
Final one from me, Andy, and from that night. Obviously, those criticisms pointed towards the corner, Sugar, yourself, and Big John, and who was kind of a leading voice. Since then, Tyson's come out and said he's not changing anything. He's having it exactly the same. Daniel Dubois has had his criticisms from obviously having Don Charles, Kieran Farrell, his father in there as well. But with yourselves, what do you make of that kind of issue, if you will, back then? And obviously Tyson coming out saying it's all going to be the same.
Listen, when things go wrong, like you said about Ben Davison and that, had the uppercut landed, he's a genius. As it goes wrong, he doesn't know nothing. We're in a fight. There's all different emotions going. Sugar is the head coach. He should be the only one talking. But also you got John, who's his dad, and has raised this man from a child to the undisputed heavyweight championship of the world. So he has a right to say what he feels. And what John was saying in the corner wasn't too far wrong. And it was good advice. But also he's a father. And that's his son, so there's also that element that he's trying to protect his son. I didn't say nothing in the fight. I said in round 11 and 12, you're down 2 rounds, you need to win these rounds. Win these rounds, you win the fight. That's all I said, because I felt I had to say that. You have to say what I knew he was down 2 rounds, and I needed to tell him that, because that's what has to be said if you need to know these things. And. But yeah, it's that's the way it is. When things go well, there's no critic. But when you lose, you're open to criticism. But that's all right. That's the way it is.
Andy, I appreciate your time. Enjoy Saturday night, and I'm sure I'll see you soon.
See you soon.
Thank you, Andy.